We have partnerships. They look like something different for everyone. So our biggest job is to fulfill like in any way that you really need us to. So for example, we have some white label partners who will just use us for fulfillment only. They currently have a client facing person, they run the show over there, and they just needed some extra hands in the mix. I would say the least common way we have a white label relationship. However, it works when you have someone who's an expert on the other side. The only time it doesn't work is when you have someone who just doesn't want you touching their clients, but doesn't understand how to speak to it. So most commonly we have a collaborative relationship, meaning you guys are still in the mix with your clients. They can still come to you for anything, but they really interact with us on the daily. I act like an operations manager for most people. So I'm there to handle any client fires. I work with the director of strategy should there be any issues that arise, and I can help address those before they need to be elevated. You guys are certainly given access to our shared inbox. That's how we manage all of the clients. So one email address, they email in, we communicate with them. It's a really cool system, and you guys have access to that. And then same with like any calls you might want to be on, all of their trackers. You guys really have complete transparency. So the collaborative relationships are probably the most common because they give you peace of mind that you can like sit back and let us do things, and you can see anything at any time. But also you learn as we work too. I think it's been really cool. Like if you just do Facebook, you're going to learn about, maybe we do SEO and you're going to learn about the process there. Or when we're doing website, I actually have a white label partner who he just has a few hosting clients with us, but we did a web design for him. And he took some of the things that we were doing to implement with his own client. We have like a cool project tracker, and he thought some of the innovations we were doing were really cool to implement in his own agency, which is nice. And then I think some of the agencies that have come here, what we already have as far as processes and procedures wasn't quite enough for them. So we created new ones. And we're happy to do that as needed. If there's certain deliverables you guys offer, certain workflows that you follow that we need to follow, that's fine. We also work in your CMS. So if you work in something like Trello or I think the Teamwork, Apollo, we're familiar with all of them. The biggest thing for us is just making sure that the relationship is what you want it to be. So that's why I always have these conversations initially, is kind of like, what does it look like for you? Because it's going to be totally different by person, by agency. And then I kind of figure out, okay, can we work into this? Does it make sense? Typically, the answer is yes. The only time that I've seen it not work is if your margins are just too big for what we do. And I can foresee that being a big fat fire, and like the value gap is just too much. We've had partnerships like that before, and Michael and I had to spend a majority of our time just trying to ease the clients, because we can't speak to spend. We can't necessarily speak to what they're paying into you guys. Sometimes we don't even know that. And so it was trying to show the value in what little we could do. And that was a big challenge for us. So that's the only time that I feel like I will say no to a campaign is, hey, there's not going to be enough value for the client, what they're investing in here. I've had a guy come to me for PPC before, and he's like, I sold the client on $100 of ad spend. And I was like, oh boy, and we do our research. When we do quoting, anytime we have something that we're going to execute, we typically will go to the source. So I either go to director of strategy with SEO or PPC or social, whoever's in that seat, I go to them and I say, hey, here's what they're interested in. Here's the outline. Here's the goals. Give me what you think is a healthy budget or healthy spend. And then I can go back to you and say, hey, here's what we think. And then from there, it's usually just a little back and forth. Sometimes your client already has a preset budget and you know what it is, or you know what you can allocate for a white label fulfillment relationship. And you can just come to us and be like, hey, we have this much. Here's, you tell us what the expectations are with this budget. So it can go either way. Again, it's very flexible in how we approach that, but it might be by client. You might have packages, and then you just always kind of know what it's going to be working with us based on what we work within with your packages. So, that's something we can always address when we get to that point. About our team, we're a turnkey solution. So we are ripe for the guy who's either running things by himself, or you have a small team and you're not looking to hire people. You're not looking to manage people. You're not even sometimes looking to fulfill the client side on the management. So we really want to make sure that you feel a quality team. We do that through hiring by passion. That's something that when I hire people, I always ask them that question. What are you passionate about? A story that I always like to tell And where I think this was a turning point for the way we looked at it, because I've always talked about passion. It's something that I know in my own role, I love my job and it doesn't feel like work. And if everyone can do that, then you have a bunch of happy employees. Well, and it's holding people accountable. It's something that I've learned in a virtual agency is it's so hard to hold people accountable when they're in their home office. Like it's so tricky. And so what I think Traction has allowed us to do is to evaluate right people, right seats, which is something we had already started, but then we kind of refined it. And then also those KPIs, how do we hold a team accountable for things that they're doing on a regular basis, and they might be okay at them or they might be good at them, but how do we make them great? How do we push them a little bit more? Because now they have to share these with the whole team. Now they don't get to just kind of hide in their little corner. It's very open. We're all very transparent about our numbers. Michael and I have shared our sales and cancellations with the team ever since I've been here. So it's a really, really cool system. And I think it'll make this team even better because now they have kind of some standard KPIs to hold themselves accountable for. ADASH we built primarily with the question in mind is how do we bring more value to these campaigns? We used to use a third-party tool like most other agencies do. And what we found was that the conversation, while we could still say, hey, you got 5 conversions, it still never quite got through to the client how valuable our work was. And so what we ended up doing was putting together a system that integrates with all the Google platforms. So AdWords, Google My Business, their keywords, analytics. I believe we're working on a Facebook API to kind of feed in some of those basic metrics as well. And then we have our task work. We work out of ClickUp. It's kind of like a Trello hybrid. And we're able to feed in the monthly tasks for this month and the ones for next month. So clients can always see, even though they have a tracker, it's just a reminder. And it's like it's a dashboard. So it's updated on its own. They always have the same link. And then what we did was we ended up building the business side of this report. Now the business side is where we decided, okay, how do we take one lead and show a client the lifetime value? Like we have a lot of dentists, for example. They might get cleaning, which to them maybe isn't a huge sale for the month, but the lifetime value of a brand new patient is huge. So when we onboard the clients, we usually ask them a couple of just general questions, and sometimes they don't know these, which ends up being more like, oh, wow, maybe I should find that out, or these people become more of a consultant to them. Or maybe they're not properly tracking leads, and we kind of give them our 2 cents on how that might work a little bit better for them. But we ask them lifetime value, we ask them average sale, their target return on ad spend, things like that. So we're trying to gauge what is going to define success for you. So when a lead comes in, they can then see that in dollars and cents for their bottom line. And what we usually see is that generally it's on track, and they're like, okay, that looks about right. And if it's not on track and we're getting 5 conversions and those conversions aren't actually translating to anything, is one of the metrics is their close rate. Either one is their close rate off, or 2 are the leads we're getting not the right leads. And then it's conversation that can go a little bit deeper. So it's kind of, it's a great report to have. And I think that depending on the white label, they may or may not want to use it. But the report itself has really just opened up a whole new area of conversation for us that I think a lot of people were maybe closed off to, or just not, they didn't feel like they wanted to share that, or they just didn't know. So even if I was on a reporting call with a client, we went over their conversions, they weren't sitting there really looking at dollars and cents. They were just sitting there looking at a tally mark. And for them, they were just like, okay, cool. So it's been really helpful in that sense. And I'll screen share real quick and kind of show it.
Cool.
So this is the dashboard. This is what you would see just as when you're in your trial version. You can add all of your clients here. It's super simple. Adding a new account. We have instructions for all of this, but adding a new account is very simple. You would just click on this and then you sync up all of their information. And then once it's in here, you simply go back over here to start linking all of their different accounts. So analytics, their AdWords, Google My Business, Google Search Console. We used ClickUp in ours because that's what we feed in through our own platform for our clients. But we have also, I believe at one time we used some other ones. We also have the ranking report, so keywords, things like that. We have instructions on how to add all of those as well. But what your clients see is this. So this is a full report. This is the client-facing report that the clients would get. They get a nice total traffic month over month, organic traffic month over month, but these are yearly reports. So as we report, typically we like to look at year over year growth. That's a really big thing for us. And if we're off, or if it looks seasonal, like in December, obviously a lot of clients are having a little bit lower traffic metrics. That's what we will also address. So our goal has always been to tell a story of the good and the bad. If we have to say anything that doesn't look quite right, we talk about a solution. So that's something there. We have kind of the basics here: medium performance, Google Search Console report. We have the basic queries in here. We can feed in AdWords if they have both SEO and a PPC campaign. And some of the more general metrics there. Keywords, this is an important part. We have both the maps and we have organic. So you're able to pick whatever keywords the client really wants to have. I don't know if for the free, I think for the free one, it's up to a certain amount. And I'd have to clarify with Michael what that is. But essentially, you can add whatever you need to in here, and then it's going to track. These are updated. ADASH is updated every Friday. So you are able to have kind of those weekly updates for the client just in the same link. And then the last thing we have here is just the completed work and the forecasted work. So these are all things that we on our end are able to feed in through our system. So that's what this one looks like. This is the standard report that clients get. When we send this to clients, we give them a recap of like all of the highlights. Here's what strategy we worked on. Here's next steps. We always want to give them that kind of forward-thinking little paragraph. But then what we do is we leverage video. So it's kind of just like this. We would screen share and we would talk them through the report. Hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's some good things. Here's some things we're going to work on. And they would just scroll down the report, which has been nice because I don't think everybody reads their reports. I certainly don't think everybody understands their reports. And so they are able to get some type of kind of instant review with the strategist, which is nice. And then here's the business report. So depending on the metrics that are fed into the system, this will change. But essentially, you can see that what it'll do is it gives you number of leads, their closing rate, these types of things. So again, it's just to open the conversation. Some of these sales, because it's a ballpark, might not be set in stone, but they can say, yep, that looks about right, or nope, not, and then we start to ask the questions. I think it's all about asking the right questions when you have to kind of have those conversations. But this has been huge, especially when it comes to any e-com client that you have. This has been really nice to see the growth that they'll have in their actual sales and revenue. So that's a little gist of ADASH. You get public links. This is what they look like. But while you're in here, you have more of a dashboard view, which allow you to see kind of the same thing, but you would have to click on the public link to send it to your client. And you can put any logo you want up at the top. Really simple stuff. It's super easy to navigate within. And like I said, we're always trying to build out things that are necessary. Like one of our white labels doesn't like to have certain metrics on his. And so we accommodate that and adjust the reporting for him. And would we do it for every single partner? It depends, I think, on how hard and how time consuming it's going to be to do it quickly for you guys, but also does it take away from the story that we're trying to tell, which is success, obviously, any kind of digital marketing campaign. If you're selling a package for $1,000, let's say it's for SEO or something, you are going to allocate $500 to your partner, so you can keep some, and you'll need some for whatever management you guys do. That's where I can say, okay, for $500, here's what we can do. Now, the cool thing is we have a custom approach for SEO. So we do a deep dive for every client, regardless of their spend, unless they're like really low. We do have one like tiny offering where it's honestly just building foundational work. But for the most part, everyone gets a deep dive. They're going to get a custom plan, custom roadmap. I usually give you guys a long list of deliverables that we can do within the campaign. And then it's up to the data to tell us what we go after first, what we take care of first, because every site's different. Every client is different based on their goals. And so when some come to us and they're already ranking pretty well, we know that, okay, they've got a good foundation. Let's build upon it. Or ones that are nowhere to be found, we know that we have a little bit more heavy work to do. We do provide you guys with, in the sales process, preliminary roadmaps for SEO and PPC. These will allow you to kind of pitch these a little bit clearer to the client as to what they're going to be getting, because that's some feedback that we've had is, hey, well, I don't really get the custom approach because it's not a package. It's not like you get A, B, C, and D. And the reason we do it this way is because it's the fastest way to be successful with any client. You take whatever they can afford and you apply it to lowest hanging fruit, and then you go from there. So we try and give you the preliminary roadmap that will give you, it essentially is going to give you high level ideas. The client would be able to know that you actually did look at their site. It's not generic, but it will give you not so much in the way of like they can take it and run. So that's what we try to avoid. It's like, we're not going to do the full audit before we sign them, but we work with them. Ben, our director of strategy, probably spends 20 to 30 minutes on any site, just kind of perusing and looking at ideas and going into like SEMrush and Ahrefs and just seeing where they're currently at. But I think those have really helped. I know that some of our partners have said those have been a game changer with closing deals for them. And we're always happy just to do it. There's no charge or anything. And there's no minimum clients. You can have one client here. You can have many clients here. We treat them all the same. We fulfill the same way. It's fulfillment, I would say, is what we're the strongest at, is making sure that all of the processes that we have are really followed by all internally, but also the clients have the benefit of a full team. We've always been a team approach. When a client meets us, it's not like, hey, here's your one dedicated person. It's, hey, here's Brittany, here's Ben, here's Lisa. Like, you get the full team. We do that also for you guys. If we ever have any turnover here, it allows the client not to feel like they've been impacted to a point where now they have to build trust with someone else, because they still have Brittany, they still have Ben. It's like they still have all these people on their campaign that they know are keeping an eye on it. And it's true. The strategists have 2 meetings a week where they powwow about all their clients and any issues or need any help from each other. Ben oversees the department, so he's able to onboard all the clients with us, and I onboard them as well. I'm kind of your tie over from sales to fulfillment. So I make sure that clients understand kind of what my role is, that they can come to me should they need anything, but also just making sure that expectations are the same as to what we set in sales and over in fulfillment. If you guys have any personas, buyer personas, or you kind of know just like, hey, here's the general area that we're going to kind of target. If you're national, pick some cities that you feel like these are going to be what we're going to go after, but try and give us a little bit about your audience. And then what we'll do is we'll try and do a little research on that space in terms of the competitors, what we're up against in that. And then we can know, okay, most of your clients are probably going to fall into this, and here's what we're going to try and give them. And again, per client, they'll all get their own preliminary roadmap, but this is going to give you, I think, at least more definition within your package, which should be helpful. I'll ask for an update on the Facebook API. And in the meantime, if you ever have anything social, any social needs here, we just utilize their reporting on that platform for now. But I will ask and see kind of what the update is there. I'll also send you a bunch more information after this call just so you have it. It's a lot of what we just covered, but you're able to kind of have a recap of